keyboard to the boardroom. This is the business of esports. As the prophet of esports, I rely on trustworthy and meaningful data every day. Data from our research partner, YouGov, offers the most complete view of esports fans and gamers in the world, providing context to who they are, what they think, the brands they buy, and things they do. YouGov's connected insights and research services inform strategy at every level. If you're a team, a brand, agency, or rights holder, you should be talking with YouGov. Their partners measure and maximize ROI and are telling compelling stories with data. Visit yougov.com/gaming-esports to learn more. From the keyboard to the boardroom, this is the Business of Esports podcast, weekly news show / post-podcast live stream. I am Paul Dewalibi. I'm joined today by my friends and co-hosts, the Honorable Judge Jimmy Barata, Lindsay the Boss Poss, Jeff the Juice Cohen. For those of you who are new here, welcome. What we do is we cover the most pressing gaming and esports topics and news of the week, but we look at all of it through a business and C-suite lens. We dissect, we analyze the business implications of everything happening in the industry. The best part about the live show, though, is we get to do it live with you guys. So you get to ask us questions, get in our faces, challenge us. We really enjoy it when you guys get involved. It makes it so much more fun, so we encourage it. You're welcome to lurk. We know thousands of you listen to this, watch this after the fact, or lurk during the show, but we encourage you to get involved. It's a safe space. We love having you all here. How are you guys doing this week? Lindsay?
Doing so well. I went thrift shopping this past weekend, and I was actually listening to the episode when I heard the Cheetos slander, and then like 3 minutes later, I found this great Cheetos shirt. And so I'm out here to tell you that hot Cheetos are a way of life, and they can be part of any healthy diet, as far as I'm concerned.
Did I miss Cheetos slander?
Yeah, your guest had said that his favorite gaming snack used to be hot Cheetos, but now he's trying to be healthier.
Oh, I see. Yeah, he definitely should pick up some Hot Pockets. That's Ty says, finally, I made it. Ty, welcome. Johan says, hi, everyone. Johan, welcome. Adam says, why is the Cheeto shirt not flamin' hot? Original flavor is weak. Ooh.
Listen, Adam, it's $2 at a thrift store. You tell them to get the flamin' hot version.
More expensive than Paul's Overwatch t-shirt.
I know. It was 50% off.
Forget the thrift stores. Go on ActivisionBlizzard.com and buy some stuff there. $1.80 for anyone who's interested. No, guys, we have so much to talk about this week. Lots of interesting news. We got so much good feedback last week from the show. And so hopefully tonight's is just as good. We got lots of stuff. Just before I get into that, I want to tease the podcast this week. We had 2 podcast episodes coming out this week. So you're all just incredibly lucky to even be fans of the business of esports. We are giving you 2 shows this week, in addition to the live show, 2 amazing guests. So I will mention the first one's Eric Hartness, who is the vice president of esports at Learfield. They are like one of the biggest players in the college esports space. And he's been 20 years in gaming and esports, so has incredible experience, knowledge, stories, insight, just so much to learn from that episode. And the other one, which I'm also incredibly excited about, is we had this week Mitch Marner on the podcast, who is the assistant captain for the Toronto Maple Leafs. He's a superstar of the NHL, one of the greatest athletes in the world at the moment. And he is super excited about the gaming and esports space, and we got to talk to him about it. And I guarantee you that episode, you guys are going to have fun with it. Jimmy, you
He's
were
also
going to say something.
I was going to say he's also great at Call of Duty. That's what he was sharing was he's the one carrying his team, and I just thought that was so fun because when someone is a world-class athlete or just top of the food chain in whatever industry they're in, it's hard to think of them in another context. And we talked about his gaming career, his gaming business, obviously a little overlap with his professional life, but it was just really cool to hear him be like, yeah, I'm carrying these guys whenever we're playing on Friday night or whatever it is. So look forward to those episodes, and they were a lot of fun to record.
Just spoiling you guys this week with so much content. Genuinely would love everyone's feedback on the episodes. They're two of my favorites, so definitely check those out. Ty says inflation. Yes, it's a podcast episode inflation. It's affecting everything. Ty can't escape it. And so this week you get an extra episode. SEO says, yo, SEO, welcome. So glad to have you here. Starwise says, damn, Adam woke up and chose violence today. I agree. I don't know, Adam. That was, coming in swinging at Lindsay.
Lindsay
of all
usually
people.
Gets a lot of love from the fans.
Yeah.
This is rare.
Nah, Adam is a homie. I would expect him to give me shit when it's due.
It is funny though, because I did get a comment from a viewer saying, could the Juice please stop talking over Lindsay? Like they assume there's some beef.
Now I know that's
the
made
Juice.
up. That's like one of those stories where it's like, my kid wrote this letter to Congress. No, I don't believe you. Send it. Put it up on the screen now. Calling it out. You just got juiced.
You just got juiced.
Looks like I am the people's choice here.
Stuart says, evening all. Stuart, welcome. So glad to have you here. All right, guys, let's jump into it. We have a lot to talk about this week, a lot. And I want to start with sort of a serious, I guess, topic. And this is EA in the news. And I thought it was interesting because I rarely see this from gaming companies. And the headline here, oh, sorry, I got to share my wrong screen. The headline here is exclusive, EA acknowledges Battlefield 2042 failure with town hall post-mortem. And so supposedly EA management ran, it says here, I'm reading verbatim, ran a company town hall meeting. This is on February 15th, so a week ago, almost to the day, giving previously unknown insight as to how the launch of Battlefield 2042 has been perceived internally by key executives. So it's a quarterly call, provides company-wide updates on the business, and they look at past, present, and future. Supposedly on this call, EA execs spent over 20 minutes discussing what went wrong with the Battlefield 2042 launch because it didn't meet the company's expectations, didn't meet the players' expectations. They acknowledged that says it's really important to acknowledge when we have misses. This is a direct quote from EA's chief studios officer. And they outlined several key factors that they believe contributed to the disappointing launch, as they called it. And they said one of the ones was they had to move the game to a new engine, and this took 18 months of development time just to move the game to a new engine. And so the problem was they then went back, I believe, to the old Frostbite engine, and it was so old they had to go back and update it. So there was underlying engine issues, and it was basically like they had to put the game on a new engine. And then the second reason, the major reason that they outlined, was the work from home environment, which I thought was an interesting sort of thing to point a finger at, where they said they didn't get the same amount of innovation when people weren't in the same room. And obviously they talk about bugs, they talk about unpolished parts of the experience. Their bug count ratio got to historic levels, supposedly, for Battlefield 2042. So all of these things contributed to, call it, the disappointing launch of the game. I'm curious what you guys make of this in general, in terms of EA coming out, acknowledging the game has disappointed, and actually publicly essentially outlining reasons why. I don't think I've seen this ever, I want to say, from such a major studio on such a major game. I mean, Jeff, maybe you've seen it before. I'm curious.
I'm not sure. Well, one, I'm curious. I mean, obviously, this seems like it was an internal meeting. Clearly, she probably expected that the internal meeting would get leaked. I don't know that it's that unique because I almost like chuckle because I feel like when they botched the last Battlefield, they kind of publicly had some comments about that one too. So this is sort of a recurring theme. And then Battlefront, they did the same thing. So DICE seems to have a pretty good record with screwing things up and then apologizing. In terms of the excuses, I mean, it's interesting to see them blame the Frostbite engine. This is now multiple games. I think Mass Effect Andromeda, Anthem, they've blamed on the Frostbite engine. And it's a bit surprising to see that, that it's still causing this many problems, particularly for DICE, because DICE is, the engine was built by DICE for Battlefield historically. So it's surprising. It's not surprising that it screwed up the BioWare games because those games were never meant to be built on that engine. But the fact that DICE can't even work on the engine that they built for that game is a bit disheartening. The one thing that I caught in the article that it seemed like the writer of this article was poo-pooing the fact that the game was hurt by the launch of Halo Infinite. I guess I'm curious what you guys thought about that. I did think that probably did play an impact because if you remember, that dropped right when Battlefield launched. Having said that, the fact that the game wasn't good and there were bugs probably was the bigger cause. But I definitely think that Halo Infinite kind of just blacking out the sun during that period couldn't have helped.
JB?
Yeah, no, a lot to cover there, and I'm just kind of figuring out where to start. For starters, I really like the town hall. I like the acknowledgement of failure. I think it saves a lot of face. You have a community that was disappointed that you need to gear up and get excited for the next one. And there's a level of honesty there, I think, and kind of consistent with the new age of marketing, the new age of fan experience and audience kind of communicating directly with creators and wherever they're getting their content, whatever that may be. I respected the move and I thought it was well done. Kind of one of the first times I think where I've heard that the work from home experience was a distraction or took away from, right? Because you hear so many companies that are thriving with that are saving on overhead, that are people that are more accessible kind of to the extreme and that they need to pull back from work because there's no separation and work-life balance. Especially in this industry where we're more adept, I think, and agile to embrace technology, to hop in video chats and things of that nature. So I thought that was interesting, but I've never been part of the creative process for a game, so I can't speak to that. But lastly, the one thing I disagreed with or that I didn't care for was blaming Halo because that's a competitor of yours. Like that's not it's a cop out to say, oh, well, they just made such a better game. You know what I mean? Like that's the fight. That's the whole point, is to compete with them. Not to mention you have your own fans of the Battlefield franchise, the way COD has their own fans, the way Halo has their own fans. The crossover is not as great as Battlefield is making it seem. I think there's a lot of loyalty there and people that like their games, like their titles, like that history. So kind of mixed feelings, like I said, and didn't know quite where to start, but I found myself overall, though, I do respect the communication with the community and kind of leveraging, I suppose, the failure into the next launch and in a hopefully a brilliant recovery from them.
Sorry, go ahead, Lindsay.
Just going to add that I can't help but think about if CD Projekt Red had done this with Cyberpunk and if that maybe would have helped that disaster abate.
Would it have, in your mind?
I do think it would have. I don't think it would have solved everything. I think it would have effectively been putting a Band-Aid on the dam. But the alternative is to just let the dam go and not even try. So I think it would have helped.
Let me just push back a little bit because I like this idea. But does doing this fix Battlefield 2042?
No, but when you talk about restoring faith in your community, it at least gives the people who are looking forward to the next Battlefield reason for hope. I mean, I think one of the biggest criticisms that we regularly have of Activision Blizzard is that there's no even acknowledgement of the issues ever. And so at least being acknowledged as a step forward. We've had this debate all the time about how much audience interaction should be incorporated into the next launch. I don't know that they'll do that, but at least admitting, hey guys, we didn't do great with this one. Give us a chance. We'll try again. That's better than just pretending nothing ever happened and just trying to launch the next thing or patch it into oblivion until everyone hopefully forgets about how disastrous the launch was.
Adam says fist bump. This was to the Lindsay comment earlier. JC says, is the juice worth the squeeze? JC, the juice is always worth the squeeze. SEO says, how are y'all doing? SEO, we're doing, I think everyone's doing great, having fun. Ty says, remember EA is the same company that published The Simpsons skateboarding. I mean, all of you woke up and chose violence this morning. What did The Simpsons skateboarding do to anyone here? Starwise says, everybody's fault except EA's, I suppose. That's a little bit what it feels like. I'm not, and they definitely took a big part of the blame, but,
the work from home thing is just,
that was a bit lame. That was a bit lame, yeah. JC says, work from home, that's a bit weak. Not saying it wasn't an obstacle, but that's reality. Figure it out. Agreed, especially in a digital only industry, basically. Ty says they're a good group of people at DICE in Stockholm. Once visited the studio for Bad Company, and I love Mirror's Edge. Hopefully they can recover from this. Well, Ty brings up, I think, the next question I had for you guys, which is, when we look at all the big franchises, right, in this cycle, Battlefield, now EA has admitted disappointing failure, right? Activision Blizzard, latest COD, they've said did not meet expectations, right? Not as successful as the last one. Halo, we don't really know the numbers, but we know the player base is stagnant, or at least that's the rumor, right? That it's not that there's trouble in the waters there. It's not like people are throwing themselves at playing the game every day. Between these three sort of marquee first-person shooter brands, and I want chat's opinion on this too. How do you guys rank them 5 years from today in terms of, like, I don't want the most sales. Who's going to make, which of the three biggest comeback to least, the smallest comeback, right? Who's going to make the biggest change? What's the biggest delta going to be over the next 5 years? Where will we see the biggest movement between these three brands?
I'm excited to hear what chat says. I can go first. The Call of Duty will continue to do well. I don't know if we're going to talk about it, but we might as well talk about it now. There was a story out there that Call of Duty is going to skip a year in 2023 for the first time in 15 years. Allegedly, this had nothing to do with the Microsoft acquisition, although that is hard to believe that they would have been doing this if they had not had the Microsoft acquisition, because the stock would have gotten killed in addition to delaying the Blizzard games. Having said that, I think this is a smart move for Activision. We've seen in the past, titles like Assassin's Creed, when they've gotten a little stale, take a year off, give the developers a little more time to innovate, create a better game, and really come back really strong. I think you're going to see that with Call of Duty. It'll probably inevitably move to either a 2 or 3 year dev cycle / generally more of just a live service. So Call of Duty plus under the Microsoft umbrella on Game Pass, I think is going to be, it's going to come back better than ever. Feel really strongly about that. If we're talking 3-5 years from now, I would go second would be Halo. I don't think Halo is going to be, it's not going to be what it once was, but Halo will still have a presence, still have, a lot of nostalgia with Halo. People just love it. And my hot take is that Battlefield won't exist. I don't know that we'll ever see another Battlefield.
You think 2 sort of disappointments in a row is enough to sink the franchise?
I think it's very possible. I mean, EA already has Apex Legends as their marquee shooter. They've sort of revamped their whole shooter franchise and put it all under Vince Zampella, who has no
But isn't he doing Battlefield now?
He has no real attachment to Battlefield. I'm not saying EA is not going to have another shooter besides Apex. I just don't know. They might bring back Bad Company, or maybe they, just some other rebranding. If there's one thing video game companies are good is rebranding and remastering basically the same stuff. So I'm not saying they're not going to have a game like Battlefield.
Yeah.
I just think it's entirely plausible that it just won't be called Battlefield. And that team at DICE has been decimated. I mean, Patrick Soderlund, who was the founder of DICE, left, I think, in 2019. And as I understand it, he basically started a studio across the street. And I forget what it's called, but they've just been picking off people for the last 3 or 4 years. And that just hasn't been the same since. They've failed with Battlefield 5, and then they've failed with 2042 or whatever it's called. So sorry, I've been rambling. That's my hot take. Battlefield won't exist. COD's going to crush it. Halo will be mediocre.
Can I just ask directly, does anyone else think Battlefield doesn't recover from this as a franchise?
So I think that's a little strong, but what I wanted to add, or rather to Jeff's point with Battlefield, not that it failed, but you saw the application, I suppose, fundamentally of tech, of movement, of the FPS, formerly Halo, into Destiny, right? That was the same dev team. And so I feel like if they were going to repurpose the learnings and that team to creating a second game, that would be what is that kind of in your mind, Jeff, what you'd see them do if they couldn't relaunch under the same title?
But why would you throw away such a valuable brand? Like, it still has value.
I mean, does it?
There's a lot of people who buy and pre-order Battlefield and who would, despite, I think, the like, why I'm confused. You guys think the negative sort of energy around the whole the Battlefield name itself is so strong that it's not even worth making another game with that name on it?
I'm not buying into that completely. I like the take. I think it's interesting to talk about, but I still think I was more so trying to envision what that would look like if they were to recycle and repurpose and something comparable. But I think even on their worst day, Battlefield would outsell any indie developer and make enough profit to justify, that release. So they would need a few more tragic screw ups, I think, before we'd ever see the IP just completely being rebranded, or not even rebranded, but rather abandoned, and then something else happen. So I don't know. I don't know if anyone's too big to fail, right? You don't wish that upon people, but it's certainly a possibility. But back to the premise, I think in the underlying question, it's fun to root for Call of Duty because they've been around for so long and you've seen them have great titles released. And then, most recently about 3 years ago when Warzone first launched. The only reason why going under the Microsoft umbrella doesn't give me the same amount of hope is because the one that you're comparing them against, Halo, is already under the Microsoft umbrella and hasn't really done much. I mean, yeah, it's cool right now recently, but it's been a long time since it was. And they didn't even release a battle royale. So I just don't know what's going on there. I feel like a lot of the hype right now is because of nostalgia, is because COD sucks, is because
I mean, they didn't have a battle royale because they were all working from home. Jimmy, what were they supposed to do? People got to eat lunch and
that must be it.
Watch Netflix all day.
But I personally, like my squad, we were really hyped on. We played COD for years, played Destiny for years, but played COD for years. Played a lot of Halo recently, and we're already looking for the next thing. Just not capturing that attention. I'm sneaking in games of Apex every chance I get. It doesn't get the love I think it deserves, but yeah.
Let me. Sorry, go ahead, Lindsay.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think that the way you phrased the question as it being the biggest delta, the biggest change over the years, I think Battlefield, to me, has the least likely chance to have the biggest delta. I don't necessarily think it's going to fail, but I think that the couple missteps, their strategy now is probably just to make a good game and get it out there. The fans will buy that, but is that a huge delta? Not really. I sort of feel the same way about COD a little bit, and talk about, again, biggest delta. COD is probably going to continue to beat expectations and sell a bazillion games, but that's not necessarily a huge change from the things that they've been doing. And if you had asked me before the Sony acquisition of Bungie, I probably would have said that Halo would have the biggest delta, just because the hype around it and the nostalgia and the fact that they're entering into other entertainment spaces. Like, everyone's excited for this show.
That's true. That is a good point.
I would have said them, but now moving from Microsoft to Sony, I'm a little bit less sure what the game development part looks like because the Halo and Xbox link is so strong. So they might, I don't know that, I guess the honest answer is I think that all of these companies are going to have pretty meager deltas as it stands in terms of growth, but they're all doing well and they're all doing good stuff at the same time, except for Battlefield. But so I don't know that the change will be so great, but I think that you can continue to expect that they all survive, unlike Jeff's hot take here.
Gotta go with the hot takes.
Ty says COD is probably too big to fail. I think that's a hot take, right? But it's hard to disagree with that. Plus, if history tells us anything, taking a break can generate more nostalgia and further boost sales once a new game is launched. I'll put that sort of next to Stuart's comment here, which is, do you think the Battlefield result influenced the decision to delay any COD release in 2022? I think that's a very interesting question. Did Call of Duty, did Activision Blizzard and Microsoft look at that and go, maybe we should, hit the brakes, slow down, not put out a new COD every year? I mean, how much do you guys think one influenced the other here?
I'm not sure I see the connection so much, because if anything, I think the decision to delay the COD release so at first, I guess it's a little confusing. They delayed the release, I think, in 23. So there will be a COD in 22, but not in 23. But to me, what drove that more than the Battlefield result was the Call of Duty result, which we know was very bad and underperformed. So I don't think they had to look and be like, oh, EA's game was bad, we should delay our, it's like, I think their own game was bad.
Wouldn't it have been the opposite? Wouldn't they have looked at Battlefield and gone, hey, those guys took 3 years to make that, right? We should not wait 3 years. We'll keep putting them out every year, right? Because if we wait 3 years and it's terrible, well, we've lost, a lot of potential sales. There is some genius to the COD model, which is, I think, two things. One, you're kind of guaranteed this revenue stream every year, which is nice. And two, because it comes out every year, the player's expectation is actually quite low, right? Because everyone goes, well, it comes out every year. So it's not like you've been waiting 3 years and the build up and all the hype, and it's like, well, I'm going to get it. If I don't like this one, I'm going to get another one next year, and it's, no big deal. Do we think that maybe there's some genius in the yearly release that is being missed here, and that may result in like more damage to these brands than actually, like, maybe the answer should be Battlefield should actually put out a new game every single year in the same way COD does, and Halo should put out right? Like, move faster, innovate more, less lowered expectations. Maybe you don't charge as much for it, or, you find a different model. Everything's all free to play or something like that. But
I don't know if I sense that maybe you're being facetious, but if you are, I'm not. If it's a serious take, I don't think I agree.
Startup philosophy.
I don't think I agree with you.
Right? Like, move fast and break things.
But it's like, inherently you're saying, like, deliver more of a worse product, so like people will expect less. Like, that's like something from Silicon Valley, the TV show kind of thing.
No, but I'm being a little facetious, but I do think there's merit to this thought that, like, making players wait 9 years for a game, right, or 5 years, or even 3 years for a game, creates maybe unrealistic expectations about how good that game is going to be. And maybe in the shooter world where, we're not talking about depth of story here and lore, and we're talking about how good is the gunplay, how good are the maps, right? Like, is the multiplayer functional? Maybe for first-person shooters as a genre specifically, the faster release works better.
I think you're right. I mean, that's why so many shooters have gone live service free to play. I mean, I think what you just described is pretty much that. So I do agree with that. And 100% we've seen these long dev cycles, like Cyberpunk. I mean, the hype just gets, that game could never have done well or never have lived up to the hype. So I agree.
Yeah.
there.
Eventually, you do need a good product, though, right? Like you just can't keep you can't just keep changing the name and expecting people to buy it when, right? Like eventually, it's going to catch up to you. So, I think that I like the idea, the quick turnover to recover. But then that also maybe you have a great game, and then why, like with GTA 5, why would you cut that short? So
Yeah,
I don't know. It's a hard thing to reconcile.
but also not a shooter. I think for
Also
shooters,
not a shooter for sure.
right? Like I'd love to see someone take this model to the extreme. And Fortnite maybe has taken it somewhat to the extreme, but like new content daily or new content like the game fundamentally changes. Maybe it's not even live service, but where you drop a new copy, a new version of the game every 6 months instead of every year, right? Why not a new COD every 6 months or every 4 months, and take this to a total extreme? Let me just get caught up on some of these comments here. JC says gaming will be fundamentally changed by new tech and players. Signed, gaming noob. I mean, no question, JC. I think that those are total truisms. Robert, hello, welcome. Good to see you. Stuart says, do you think... Oh, I read this one. Six Cannon says, it's really funny to see Lindsay in a headset while in a new locale. Is the transfer from casual to mid-core gamer happening before my eyes?
Alas, only the transfer from 13-year-old laptop to really nice gaming PC is happening.
You just need to get a taste, Lindsay, and then you'll be hooked,
know,
right?
It's so much better. I'm not used to dual screens. Crazy.
Ty says, like Cyberpunk. Yeah, I think, Ty, that was the perfect example of taking way too long to make your game. Antonio says, I don't think COD has any competition other than Halo. That's kind of a hot take. No competitor to COD other than Halo? I to be honest, I wouldn't put Halo in the same league as COD. I mean, we talk about it in the same league because they're both shooters, but does anyone think this is a particularly spicy take, or do you all agree? Jimmy?
I agree with you that I don't think Halo's even a competitor to COD. I think COD is king right now. And honestly, that's because they're riding off of a hot release from 2 years ago with Modern Warfare and Warzone, not because of what was it, the one that came after Black Ops, I think, and then the most recent Vanguard. So it kind of shows again also with the yearly release and the strength of that even if you have two bad ones, that one good one can ride you that far. So another point I think in your favor on that, Paul. But to Antonio's point, I don't think COD has competition either. I think Halo is having its moment in the sun right now because people missed it, but I don't think that makes it a competitor. Again, I think it's a heavy nostalgia play. I just wish people I don't know why Apex isn't a top 2, top 3 right now. It's so good. It's the best FPS out right now.
I think it kind of is. Is it like where do you think it sits in the pantheon?
Apex?
Right now?
Yeah. It's probably number 3 behind COD and Halo, right? Ahead of Battlefield.
In terms of what? How are we ranking them?
Like popularity right now.
Not by revenue, but by
players,
monthly active users.
Yeah.
I mean, anecdotally, it's getting a lot more love than any of the other franchises. A lot more love. You see a lot more positivity around Apex than any of the other franchises. Now, how that translates to actual sales, we know they're generating hundreds of millions of dollars a month of revenue, right? We know the game is doing well. And I think what's interesting about Apex is very few complaints, right? Like they come out with an heirloom that costs like $100 or $120 to get this heirloom, melee weapon. And like, you don't see the backlash that you would see if that was COD and it was some in-game item that was $130 or $120. It's all we would read about for like a week. It's literally all you would read about. Stuart says they lose momentum, so the constant update / new release definitely works better. I agree. I'd like to see them get even more aggressive potentially with some of these, not less aggressive in terms of release schedules. Six Cannon says dual screens. Whoa, a Herculean leap in setup. Going back to single monitor will be jarring. I don't think comparing Halo and COD is possible anymore. There are too many notable FPS titles to compare to COD. Halo, Arena, and Unreal Tournament shooters are so distinct now. This is also true. There is, there are subtleties that they're not all the same, but they do compete for the same player base, right? I think that's the guys. I want to mention this one thing before I move on completely, and that's Dr. Disrespect, whose opinion I have a lot of respect for. And the headline here is Dr. Disrespect claims Warzone has hit rock bottom. He says, "I've had enough." He blames Caldera, which I guess is the map, and boring updates for the Battle Royale's decline. He's quoted, he says, Raven Software's title has finally hit rock bottom after more than 18 months of decline. He says, "I've had enough," the two-time declared to his YouTube fans in a recent stream. "I think I'm switching over right now. Warzone is just not going to do it for me." And he says, "I'm just not in it. I haven't gotten into it since this map was introduced. I'm just not into this game. It's insane. I'm literally not interested in Call of Duty right now. This might be the least interested I've ever been for this game. It may just be the way the game looks, the situation of the game right now, and the design of this map." He says, "I can't get into it, not at all." Quick question for all of you, but I don't want to spend a lot of time on this. We talk about influencers driving player bases for all these games, right? And we talk about game launches and how important all these influencers are. Does Dr. Disrespect's voice and opinion here change anything for COD's potential or future, or right? And I look at my list of streamers that I follow, right? I've got a monitor here with all the streamers I follow on Twitch, for example. Not a single one playing COD or Warzone. Not a single one.
Yeah.
How big of an impact do you think this has over the same 5-year period we've been talking about, guys? Huge, small, none?
Well, he's more vocal than most, right? So I don't know if everyone's going to come out and just say this game is trash, but it's indicative of that trend, like you said, where none of them are playing, which is huge. And coincidentally, who happens to also be developing a new FPS title that maybe wants to, take some light, right, and take some press and put it onto that. But yeah, we saw how successful an influencer marketing campaign did for Apex when that launched. We spoke today in our recording with Eric Hartness, from Learfield about, before running these collegiate campaigns, he was over at Amazon Game Studios, and before that at EA, running marketing for those two companies. So definitely tune in to listen to his insight on influencer marketing campaigns. But I think it's huge, Paul. Again, with a grain of salt, because Disrespect is so vocal, but you just said it yourself. Not a single one of the guys you're watching are playing the game, and I don't know, it's just indicative of a larger problem, and I think a greater trend.
Guys, unless Lindsay or Jeff, you guys have very strong thoughts on this, I want to move on. I want to talk about Peloton. Peloton in the news, big announcement. I felt this week from a gaming perspective, and the headline here is Peloton officially releases its lane break gaming mode. So Peloton has been struggling, but they rolled out this video game style lane break mode. It's like a 10 to 30 minute workout. It turns your bike into a musical fitness game. You power this virtual wheel as it rolls down a track. It's you're pedaling to hit specific beats too. So there's like a Beat Saber style component to it, and the idea is to continue to gamify fitness more and more. Obviously, does this? I'll ask sort of a bit of a loaded question. Is Peloton now? Does this make Peloton, given how popular it has been and how many people have bought these devices over the last year or 2 years? Is Peloton now the fourth horse, call it, in the console war? Is it? Can we say that? Is that too much of a stretch? Jeff, you have strong thoughts?
I think I totally buy that. Peloton, no, no, but I think it's a very smart move by Peloton. I mean, they've had a lot of struggles recently in terms of their stock price, their supply chain, demand, stuff like that. Obviously, that is not for this podcast because people listening don't care about that. But I think the fact that they're gamifying the fitness experience is very interesting. I believe we've talked about this in the past, and we actually, when they announced this, we're pretty bullish on it We've seen things like Ring Fit, I believe, was very popular when it came out from Nintendo during the pandemic. The Wii obviously had an exercise type fitness movement component. So gaming and fitness sort of have some overlap. And I'm a big believer in kind of the gamification of everything. It's funny, I literally just said this on the Meta Business podcast that's not out yet, that you guys will all go check out. But yeah, I think gamifying things is sort of the future of consumer technology. So I like that they're gamifying fitness here. I think this is good. It's not going to like change the world for Peloton, but I think it's a good engagement little tool for them.
Lindsay, what's more effective, bringing fitness to gaming or bringing gaming to fitness?
I think bringing gaming to fitness is more effective.
So you think this will be more successful long term than, like they mentioned in this article, Wii Fit, like Jeff mentioned the Ring Fit. They talk about Xbox Fitness. They talk about, like, I'll mention Oculus has, fitness stuff. Like, you think bringing gaming to a fitness device and a fitness service has a higher chance of success than trying to bring fitness to a gaming device?
Yes, because I don't think people buy gaming devices expecting to use them for fitness. But I do believe people who buy fitness devices can be entertained or kept on the platform with gaming.
I mean, it's interesting because have you seen the latest ads for Oculus, right? For the Oculus Quest headsets? It's all about fitness, right?
Yeah.
Like they lead with fitness. And so I'm curious because we haven't seen, like, my personal experience with fitness being brought to gaming is it never lasts very long, right? Like, and Beat Saber maybe has done better than most, and the Oculus has maybe done better than most because there are fewer use cases for VR than, like, if fitness is a great use case for VR. But it feels like they're like these flash in the pan kind of phenomenon, right? Like Wii Fit was really cool for a very short period of time and then no one touched it. Ring Fit, I bought one, you play it for like 2 weeks, it's the coolest thing ever, and then it just sits and collects dust. And with the Peloton, it feels like maybe this might be a longer term because people get on that thing expecting to work out. I'm curious what Chad thinks, but Lindsay, I don't know if you wanted to expand on that.
Yeah, so we've talked about this before, and one of the things that I was having the biggest issue with is that I didn't feel like anyone had fully committed to doing both. Oculus now has. I felt like even Wii Fit was sort of a half-assed attempt, not in that it wasn't fun, and it was very fun, actually, and it was very well done, but when it comes to, like, achieving fitness goals or creating a community around those fitness goals, there was a lot of things that were lacking there. I just haven't felt like anyone has gone full tilt in quite the way that I would want to see. And that's an opinion I've held for a while now. The Peloton announcement and what Oculus is doing feels more of a full tilt investment in actually bridging the gap between gaming and fitness. They're doing it from different aspects, of course, because Oculus is a gaming first company bringing in fitness, and Peloton is a fitness first company bringing in gaming. But I feel like each of those is closer to the center of converging on fully being into gaming and fitness. And I think that as long as you're getting people on your platform that are genuinely interested in fitness, we're talking about people who are maybe going to the gym who will put on the Oculus or interested in going to the gym, but like people who are genuinely interested in actually working out, and you are making product and material for those people, not kind of a really fun game that also has you move or a really crappy game that you can also play while you're biking, then I think that there's a higher chance of a success rate.
I mean, Lindsay, you're making me think that there's this totally untapped potential for bringing more gaming to fitness then, right? Like, and you can't tell by looking at me because I'm an Adonis, a physical specimen, but like, I hate going to the gym, right? I think it's the most boring experience ever. It's the worst, like, user experience ever. There's nothing pleasant or fun about it. Imagine if you could go to your gym and, like, going from machine to machine is like a quest, right? Or something like that. Or right, like you throw in a bit of storyline, some cutscenes, some reason why I need to push this thing 12 times, right? Like, give me some reasons why I'm doing this, gamify it for me. Feels like that's the bigger opportunity right now. I want to read some of these comments. It says here, Ty says, did Peloton just jump the shark? I mean, does anyone think this is the moment? I think they've already jumped the shark, right? Like it's already super mainstream. JC says, I don't think so, Ty. I think they're ahead of the curve in many respects. I tend to agree with that. Ty says, gaming and fitness is like communism. Great idea, bad in execution. I'm gonna tiptoe around that one, Ty, but
the last part of that is true so far, though. The great idea, bad in execution, is how it felt.
I do agree with that.
Yes.
Yeah, agreed. Greg says, I'm fully behind gaming and fitness, but do you think people will go buy a Peloton because they can play a game while they ride? That's a good question. Does anyone think that more people will buy a Peloton because of this one new thing?
I think it's very much a retention play, right? It's engagement and retention. So you have a Peloton, you start playing the game, and you're like, wow, this is more fun than just riding here. I'm going to now subscribe longer, stick around, use it more. I think that's the play rather than I doubt there's many people that were on the fence about getting a Peloton. They're like, well, now I can game on it.
That was literally
they got me now. Like, I've just been waiting to get money.
For real me. Like, okay, I'm not even kidding.
There's always one crazy person out there.
Well, it's so funny because I'm with you, Josh. I totally think it's a retention thing, but I have been hesitant about getting the Peloton just because I don't know that it's my preferred form of fitness. And there's actually a lot of other things that have come out that particularly through music and gaming and fitness have reached a really interesting convergence. And I saw this and I was like, oh my God, maybe the Peloton is what I want. But I want to plug, I had Liz Moody on as a guest on the Meta Women podcast that's coming out here in a couple weeks. And we actually exclusively talked about gaming and fitness on that for a very long time. And she's involved with companies like Hydro and Lightboxer that are trying to, again, fully find the convergence between the two. So there's a lot of really interesting stuff coming about. So when you say, is it the fourth console in the console war? I don't think Peloton specifically is, but there's a whole host of these kind of activity-based consoles, if you will, coming out that I think could be real competition.
Yeah. JC says, love that question, Paul. I think referring to what's the bigger opportunity, bringing gaming to fitness or fitness to gaming. Juliet says, I wouldn't consider it a fourth horse, but it's definitely a way to connect with an audience of non-gamers, especially for the parents of gamers. I think that's good insight, right? My grandmother's not going to buy a Peloton probably, but there is fitness equipment that I think may be more likely for parents to buy that can get them into gaming without them realizing it, right? Like they may not pick up Call of Duty, but they may pick up Beat Saber, for example, and I do think it makes it more accessible. Fitness is more accessible. Ty says at JC, I was mostly kidding. Tom, Lindsay is right about gamers not looking for fitness. I mean, the stereotype is kind of true. JC says, oh, the boss just changed my mind. Phase 1 fitness tech will bring people to gaming. I think Lindsay made a very strong case there. Ty says, but I don't think there are a lot of great system-selling fitness games out there, but that's the good news. Nowhere to go but up. I mean, look, I think a lot of people are buying Oculus Quests for Beat Saber. Truthfully. Like, I think... And it's cool, you get to play the Star Wars game for your kid or whatever, but I know a lot of people who bought Oculus Quest to play Supernatural and Beat Saber because they see it as a workout. JC says, right on, Ty. Feel free to completely disregard. I'm a full-on graybeard gaming. JC says, yes, Paul, listen to the boss. I mean, there's a reason we call her the boss, JC. I do listen to the boss. Matt says, Lindsay, love the shirt. Matt, you're late to the game. We already complimented Lindsay's shirt. Matt says, just do what I do. Play your console while on a regular $200 exercise bike. Save yourself $2,800. Matt, I think you're just ahead of your time. You're a Renaissance man in that sense. So you're asking too much of people. Stuart said the Wii Fit sold well, then sat in people's cupboards and didn't get used. Yeah, Stuart, I think that's most people's experience with gaming, like bringing fitness to gaming. It's always just flash in the pan, a lot of excitement, and then nothing. All right, guys, can we talk about the absolute opposite of this story? I have the polar opposite. We talked about fitness and gaming and the intersection here. Let's talk about drinking and gaming. And the headline here is, "Drink up because gaming sake is coming to Japan." So this is former, sorry, Jeff, not gaming old fashions. But the sub-headline here is, "Former Capcom artist Kinu Nishimura is one of the artists designing the labels." So basically, it's these limited edition bottles of what they're calling gamer sake. One is called Gaming Rainbow, and I can't remember. Oh no, Challenge Blue and Have Fun Red are the two names. And there doesn't seem to be any benefit. It's not like a gamer, drink or a G Fuel style drink. So I don't really get this. Can one of you guys explain this to me? As someone who doesn't drink, I'd love to understand why a gaming drink? Is this just purely capitalizing on trying to reach a gaming audience, or?
Listen,
Lindsay?
Paul, we are one step away from them adding caffeine and being back to the Four Loko days of 2011, and that is what I'm looking forward to.
I heard that's why you stopped drinking, Lindsay.
Yeah, I gave it up until Four Loko was all the way back.
Too strong.
As someone who also never drinks caffeine, that will be the promised juice for me.
But does anyone think this is completely antithetical to putting gaming in front of whatever thing we're selling? Like, I kind of like putting gaming in front of things, right? Like gaming chairs and gaming mice and, gaming whatever.
What's wrong with drinking when you game? I feel like I drink almost every time I play video games. Like, it's a great thing to do when you're.
Wouldn't it negatively affect your performance? Isn't this defeat the purpose?
Paul, not everyone plays video games thinking they're gonna go pro and be like a master like yourself. Like, plenty of people just out here trying to play a couple games of Madden on the weekend and listen to some podcasts and drink.
Some people just like to talk to their friends and party a little bit while they play.
No, I'm serious. I think it's, I don't know. I think it's very reasonable. Yeah, it's not performance enhancing, but I don't know.
Okay, but there's a serious business question here, which is spirits have been one of the fastest growing segments of the beverage market. A lot of big celebrities have launched their own spirits and have made lots of money. Do we see a boom coming for gaming alcohol, essentially, right? And is there a future where, maybe not Ninja, but there's Ninja, there's Ninja vodka or Tim the Tatman beers, or is this coming? Have we aged up sufficiently as an industry that now, we're okay with talking about and thinking about gaming and drinking and alcohol and gaming as a business, viable business?
I mean, as gamers continue to age up, right? I think our interests, the brands that we're gonna resonate with, or the products that we're gonna wanna buy, are gonna become more mature. So I love that they're marketing in this sense. And Lindsay's point about Four Loko is a joke, but also these we're gonna have new gaming drinking products the way we have gaming and Hello Kitty chairs and any other collab that we've covered on the show. The first thing that came to my mind was how much I enjoyed the Star Wars themed drinks at Star Wars Land and Disneyland. And if there's a way for me to bring that home, it's just it's just fun, just because alcohol is the underlying product there doesn't really change anything. It's really just about how do you integrate something that you enjoy in a community or a brand or an industry that you spend your time in, or that you like to involve yourself with. How do you parlay that or relate that to anything else? And we've seen it done with all kinds of beverages and food products, so why not alcohol? Especially, like I said, as gamers continue to get older, because G Fuel is not going to grab the attention forever, I don't think.
Why don't they put alcohol in G Fuel? Has that happened yet?
Because then you have a Four Loko. Exactly Lindsay's point.
This is perfect.
That was what that is.
Perfect. It's like what's that movie with role models where they drink? What is it? Whatever. You know the one with Stifler where they drink.
It is called
they're
Role
like,
Models.
oh,
Yeah,
that's
with
role
Paul,
models.
and Paul
Yeah,
Rudd,
he's like,
right?
drink the beast. That's what they need.
Matt says, I was so excited when I read about this article because I knew it would be covered by you guys. That says something, I think. Ty says, oh man, in esports Tour de France, talking about the fitness stuff. Yeah, that would be interesting. JC says, thank you. Ty says, JC says, sorry. Ty says, I can't tell you how many times I've been playing Dead Cells and thought, man, I really wish I had some cold sake. It is kind of a weird beverage choice too. Like of all the, maybe of all the spirits,
Well, it was in Japan, so
that's true.
it makes
I mean, the
perfect
names
sense
are
for that market.
particularly bad. I think Matt mentioned this, that what makes this gamer related besides the names are pretty lame. Have fun red? What is have fun about red?
There's got to be some like translation thing where like in Japanese it sounds way cooler.
Like Four Loko.
Or like makes sense in Japanese. Yeah, like have fun red is not. Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
Matt says this makes me think I can put the letter E on a trash can, call it a gamer trash can, mark up the price, and make a fortune. I mean, Matt, I don't know what you're waiting for.
Yeah, you shouldn't be giving these away in a live
somewhere.
stream, Matt. I mean, you should be pitching these to your boss in confidence.
Yeah. What is going on? Why are we giving this away? Matt forgetting who he works for here. All right, guys, let's move on. Before we have an interesting story coming up. Before we get to that, though, I just want to mention this live stream, very generously sponsored by YouGov. YouGov produces the very best data on games, gamers, esports fans all around the world. If you're looking for incredibly actionable data, you're looking to reach the gaming audience, the esports audience, you're a brand, you're an esports team, you're operating in or around the space, you definitely need to be talking to YouGov. They can absolutely help your business. I'm going to put a link in the chat. It won't go everywhere, but like YouTube and some of the other platforms. It's yougov.com/gaming-esports. There's a bunch of free data and free reports there. But if you're looking for anything beyond that, any of us are happy to connect you with the team at YouGov. Reach out to me, to the judge, to the boss, to the juice. All of us can help you reach the fine folks at YouGov. Go show them some love. They're tremendous supporters of the live stream, and we appreciate them. All right, guys, can we talk about Hasbro? Hasbro, toy company, but they also own some gaming assets, and I thought this flew under the radar a little bit, but it's kind of a serious story. The headline here is Hasbro investor calls for gaming spinoff and board shakeup. And what's happened here is one of the investors in Hasbro, a company called Alta Fox Capital Management, they own 2.5% of Hasbro's stock, and they called for a spinoff of the Wizards of the Coast gaming subsidiary, which owns Dungeons and Dragons and Magic the Gathering. And they've nominated candidates to the Toy Makers Board, but they said, this is a quote from Alta Fox, we've attempted to collaborate with Hasbro, but it continues to cling to its failed brand blueprint strategy. The firm slammed the plan as an abject failure, punctuated by ill-advised acquisitions, haphazard execution, and poor disclosure practices. So there's a lot of like minutia here in terms of what they're attempting to do, and put their own people on the board and get Hasbro to spin off the gaming business. It says here Hasbro has been working to reshape its strategy in an era where play goes far beyond toys. The Wizards of the Coast doubled its revenue in 2021, expanding digital initiatives, and they hired a whole bunch of people under that brand. So like their gaming stuff is working, it seems. Magic, Wizards of the Coast, all these kinds of things. And Alta Fox wants Hasbro to spin it out. The reason why I think this story is interesting, let me give you my true intentions here, is we've had the Disney conversation a million times around their failures in gaming. Why aren't we seeing something similar with Disney? Where, should we have more companies spinning out their gaming assets where they're maybe trapped or not working within the bigger company? Or do we believe that vertical integration, in this case, gaming with toys, makes a lot of sense and should stay together? I'm curious where you guys land on this, and especially the sort of the comparison or the pitting this against the Disney story?
I mean, the interesting thing with the Disney story, and I guess this is what you're getting at, it's basically the exact opposite. Here, the gaming asset is there and they want to spin it out to unlock value. They're essentially saying that this gaming is valuable. Whereas Disney, the argument would be, well, they're not doing gaming and they're losing money, or there's an opportunity cost because they're not doing gaming and they should. In terms of why no activist has gone after Disney on that, it's a lot harder for an activist to go after someone and say, hey, you should be doing this versus you're already doing this and you should, spin it out. I bet that the math and the fundamentals that AltaFox laid out make a ton of sense. And I'm sure there probably would be near-term value unlocked to spinning off those assets into their own company. The bigger question is, and it's one you brought up, are there synergies to keeping them together? And I think you can make a pretty convincing argument that there are. Like, keeping those things together probably does add value, and it is not ideal that the market's not giving them the credit for it. But having said that, I don't know that that necessarily means you need to spin it out in order to unlock that value. Maybe just having this campaign out there makes it such that more investors are aware of this value that's in the company, and maybe Hasbro starts to see some of that value just because of this. Additionally, maybe there's some things that Hasbro could do to focus on it more from their investor relations strategy, or maybe their capital allocation, stuff like that, just lean more heavily into it. I do believe they are doing that. I think the new CEO, Chris Cooks, I think he actually had run the Wizards of the Coast subsidiary, if I recall correctly. So maybe a lot of what AltaFox is pushing for is sort of happening already. But yeah, I mean, I think it makes sense that they should be focusing more on gambling. I didn't realize they were that big as a business and a brand. So that kind of surprised me they're doing that much revenue.
It's interesting because, Jeff, I love the way you're thinking about this, but it's one of these things where it's part of the problem that you get these huge disparities in hype between different parts of these, media / B2C, like whether it's consumer electronics or media or entertainment kind of companies, where, making toys, not that exciting, not that much hype, solid business, right? Has done very well for Hasbro over the years, but like not that much hype around it. Whereas you get this massive amount of hype around gaming right now and game development, and anything that's IP and game development commands a huge multiple and tons of excitement and tons of attention. And so even though there may be synergies, because you're right, it makes sense, right? If I produce a Magic the Gathering video game and I can also make toys and cards and all the other stuff to go with it, there's definitely synergies there. But if the market's not rewarding me because the toy piece is not exciting for them, and there's tons of hype that's being dragged down by that piece, do you think like we will end up seeing more pure play as a consequence? More companies trying to focus their stories around what's the hype, as opposed to trying to be more vertically integrated?
I mean, we always see this in a lot of industries. Like, I'll give you the example that's been popular over the last number of months. It's every casino that has a digital business has spun out or thought about spinning out their digital, online sports book. Like, Wynn was going to spin out Wynn Interactive. Rush Street, which owns a bunch of land-based casinos, spun out Rush Street Interactive. I could name literally 5 or 6 others. Golden Nugget, same thing. So it is a common, Wall Street type strategy. It does unlock value oftentimes. It's also one of these things that Wall Street people, bankers, investors love, because it's basically like you're creating value with a piece of paper. It's like, I have this piece of paper, I split it in half, and all of a sudden the paper is bigger. Like, people love that. You get value from doing nothing. But I think Ty, put in the chat here, sort of, it was almost exactly what I said earlier, but I think he's pretty much right.
Ty says, I think you keep it intact. The new CEO already led the digital gaming division of Hasbro. I think you have to give him a chance to make some pivots. And it may just be the activist investor that wants to make sure it's going in a certain direction, right? Wants to make themselves heard or known. Owen says, hey, everyone. Sorry I'm late. Good to be here. Owen, happy to have you here. Tom says, Warner Brothers had a chance to spin off games with the AT&T Discovery deal, but didn't, unfortunately. Yeah, see, that's one of those where gaming could get lost in the mix of like the 12,000 other products that, AT&T, Discovery, Warner Brothers makes, right? There's just where gaming fits into that picture could get completely lost. Jimmy, Lindsay, I don't know if you have any thoughts on this before we move on.
I love Jeff's insight on that, and I know we got a lot to get through, and chat seems to agree, so I'm not going against the juice on this one.
Go ahead, Jimmy. What were you going to say?
No, that's it.
Can we talk about Meta in the news? Meta making investments in gaming, and this one, a $40 million investment in a mobile gaming company. So Meta has invested $40 million in Tokyo-based mobile gaming company Playco. They made the investment a little bit earlier this year, and the investment for Playco is going to allow them to expand their user base by reaching as many platforms as possible. They'll be added to Meta's new product experiences division, which was established to allow Facebook to experiment with new apps that align with plans for future projects. This is verbatim from the article. It says Playco is aiming to build a game that more than 1 billion people can play. It wants its games to be multi-platform and available on major social networks. In September 2020, Playco completed a $100 million Series A funding round, valuing the company at more than $1 billion. It was led by Sequoia Capital, and they launched their first titles, Ask Away and Heads Up, which were built from the ground up for video conferencing app Zoom. So, mobile gaming, they've done some Zoom games. Other than that, they haven't put anything else out. $1 billion valuation, and Meta is investing $40 million into them. What do you guys think of Meta making investments in game developers in general, and specifically, in this case, a mobile game developer that seems very ambitious, like a game that more than 1 billion people can play? I don't know what that means exactly. But Jimmy, I don't know if you have thoughts on Meta making investments in gaming companies.
I mean, it's not the first time we've seen, I thought, them kind of integrate gaming into their platform. Here, it's kind of obvious, isn't it? Right? You have a push or a lean towards mobile to support the huge portion of the world that is on mobile more than they are on PC or console, and something that can facilitate or hold over 1 billion people. It's the metaverse, right? It's 1 billion people in a digital world that are on mobile or on PC or whatever login platform and hardware of choice. And it's a gamble, of course, but this is a company that has aggressive hopes. But I mean,
let me just ask some more specific questions. Like, why investment? Why not acquire? Why not build? Right? They said they're going to hire 10,000 people for Meta. Why, if they believe building games is core to the metaverse strategy, why just make an outside, why make an outside investment? Why not go and acquire or build in house? Any thoughts on that?
It's a good point, I guess, and I definitely want to get some other perspectives here, I think, on some of the more business savvy guys in our group. But in my layman understanding of this, I'd say it is a strong bet, right? It is something with a lot of not just potential and promise, but rather it's aggressive, right? Like we were saying, this is something that it's going to be hard. It's going to take years to come by, and they don't need, I think, to go all in this early. They can put a little bit of money here, fund it, support it, be early to work with them, but still kind of diversify that risk, spread it across some other companies that aren't mobile focused or that are doing it in other ways. I just feel like it was a mitigation of risk as opposed to just go, if there was more promise, if it wasn't so early, if they were perhaps showing more milestones, then that might change things. And there's nothing to say that they don't just buy in and double down on the next round, right? So I kind of respect the hesitance, honestly. Or not I want to call it hesitance, but I just say the slow play.
Lindsay, you had thoughts on this?
Oh yeah, Wordle was so much cheaper. That was my first thought. No, but I want to point something out because Facebook has tried to foray into mobile games before, and they had Farmville, and that was kind of a big hit or whatever. But nothing is outpacing Candy Crush, which is of course Activision Blizzard. And it's just amazing to me that so many of these companies who are going in, I think, with the right intention, are losing out to a guy who developed this for fun and wound up with millions of users. And I think that I don't know, this comes down to what we talked about last week with what can you do to outsell some of the AAA titles. I feel like it's kind of a similar question in the mobile space. I think that there is a game out there that's going to get 1 billion people on it eventually. I don't know how that game's going to come about. I don't know how big of a role Facebook/Meta plays in that. I don't know that this is the strategy, but it's a fairly low level investment in terms of their value. So why not at least try it, I guess? And eventually something's got to stick the way Wordle did. So I don't know. This is funny to me.
I mean, the counter argument is because game developers may only get more expensive, right? Like that as there are fewer and fewer of them available to acquire, and the better and better funded that the remaining independent ones are, the less and less likely they are to be sold at reasonable prices or valuations, right? This is a hot market right now. I'm surprised, given the conviction around metaverse, around gaming, around all these things, that Meta hasn't made a bigger buy or at least a bigger hiring push from a game developer standpoint.
I agree. I mean, what I thought was interesting. They said they were making games for Zoom. I mean, this is something we've talked about a number of times. Like, I think that's an underutilized platform in terms of gaming. It's got a lot of usage from a B2B perspective.
Who's playing games on Zoom? Who's playing games on Zoom? If you're playing games on Zoom, you're doing work wrong.
Well, number one, that's a good idea.
No, if you're
number
playing
two,
games on Zoom, they're Battlefield developers, apparently.
You want to play games on Zoom? Go
cool.
do a play to earn game. There you go. You want a game that's not
it's
fun.
very social. I don't know.
a-
There's interesting social elements that I think could work. I also think what you just said is actually genius. If you could have some little game while you have a Zoom window up, like, that's actually kind of genius. If you're sitting in a meeting and you could just be like playing some little word game or like some little idler.
This is exactly what EA
actually
complained
really
about. This is why their game sucks, Jeff.
Ty says 15 billion mobile devices out there, 6.5% of the pie. Doesn't sound too crazy. Ambitious, but not ludicrous. I mean, a game a billion people can play. I haven't seen it yet, so. And I think you're going to need a lot more than $40 million to go build a game that a billion people can play. When you think of Call of Duty Mobile being 100 million players, we're talking about 10 times that.
But it's just 40 million from Facebook. I thought Sequoia was in on that, and some others.
I'm sure they raised 100 million before that or whatever, right? No question. But I think you're talking about like a game that reaches that many people is not. I don't think is going to be built with millions. Well, let's put it that way. Not long term. Okay, guys, I have a couple of fun stories I just want to end with. I want to wrap up here.
Round.
Definitely lightning round.
Lightning round.
And I'm back where I have all my gear here. So I should have prepared a little lightning symbol or some like a little sound effect or something. But you may have to just do with like a rim shot or something like that, if that's okay. There you go. So 4 fun stories here. Your 1 minute or less opinion on each one of these. We go in order. Jimmy, Juice, Boss. Here we go. First story. Riot introduces new logo, launches press site. What do we think of this logo? Do we care? It says it comes as part of an expanded brand design system that'll be implemented throughout 2022 across Riot's department. It says the purpose here is to build a more cohesive visual system and set the company up for success long term. It'll create unique assets, distinctive typography, etc. Jimmy,
I hope I'm not giving too much away here, Paul. I don't want to ruin anything, but we have a new program coming out. If I can speak to that, if you want to give me a nod, yes or no. Our office hours.
This is true. True. You can speak to it.
All right. I just wanted to not get in trouble here. So we're launching a new program called Office
lightning round,
Hours
Jimmy. What's going
with
on
the
here?
professor. I got a minute. I got a minute. You're stealing my
Lightning
time.
round.
You're stealing my time. I got a minute. We're launching
This Jeff guy, he talks over everyone, not just
Bullshit. This is the lightning round, and this guy's now selling products.
So we got Office Hours with the professor, William Collis, as many of you know and love, and he covered this in one of our recordings. It will be one of his first episodes. Really insightful, and if you care one way or the other about this Riot Games story, definitely give it a listen. My lightning round answer to the Juice's satisfaction is I couldn't really care less. But William did cover this with a really deep analysis. So go take a listen. We'll give you a heads up when that launches.
It will be launching this week, guys. Just so you're aware, it's called Office Hours with the Professor, and it's William who will do a deep dive every week, like a 5 to 10 minute deep dive on one specific story with like a learning, and it's a lot of fun. So definitely stay tuned for that. Jeff, sorry, go ahead.
I'm excited for this professor thing. I didn't know. I'm excited to hear William's takes. Maybe we'll get him back on the live stream at some point. In terms of this, the first thing I thought was maybe they're gearing up to go public to spin out of Tencent. I have no idea if that's the case, but anytime you start doing PR, brand design, press, it just, I don't know, something about it was like, why would you be doing that if there wasn't a good reason? It's not like Riot needs more press.
Lindsay?
I mean, aesthetically, I love a good rebrand, but I don't have too many opinions on this. Good for them.
I looked at this, guys, and I couldn't tell what was different about the logo.
Yeah, that was the other thing.
Same.
This is like designers justifying, the 12,000 mood boards they made for this logo, and
I'm sure reminded a lot of work went into it. What work looks like, I'm not involved in that creative process.
I'm reminded of the scene from Silicon Valley where the designer comes in and it's this black box. And he goes like, "What animal do you want the box to be? Is it a jaguar? Is it a cheetah? All right, let's move on. Let me just read the comments here, and I'll bring another one. JC says, "Bottom line, Meta has the dollars. They will experiment as they make their way into gaming." Exactly. $40 million is truly just experimenting here. It's not a big commitment given everything else that they're doing. Antonio says, "Wait, what's the world's population again?" Not 15 billion, Antonio, if that's what you're alluding to, but like. I just look on my desk, and there's a few of these. Like,
oh my God.
Yeah, that's normal.
That's because you're insane.
So
you have one phone for every tab, right? Is that how you keep track of everything?
That's it. So there are more phones than people, if that's what you were alluding to. Ty says, "Juice, I followed you on Twitter. Pretty sure you just made his day."
I mean, you all should. You're crazy if you don't.
At Jeff Cohen 23.
You're
make sure to follow
the
Juice on Twitter.
You must not like money.
All right. Next story. Gamer apartments available to rent for under US $350 a month. Comes with full gaming PC setup. So it's they call it an e-room. Comes complete with gaming PC, desk chair, and more. It's a Japanese esports company that's tackling this problem. Obviously, it's in Japan. And so the cheapest beginner plan is $340 a month, includes a GTX 1650 PC, and the more pricey Elite plan costs $600 a month and includes an RTX 3070 Ti PC. How much do we love the idea of gamer apartments? We talked about gamer sake. Gamer apartments. Lindsay?
I was more excited about this than the sake. That's my house.
Would you rent a gamer apartment?
No, but I don't live in Japan. Apartment sizes there are like very small. So I suppose if you're going to be forced to spend a lot of time in one place that's extremely tiny, it might as well also have an awesome gaming setup.
Jeff?
I mean, this must be in the metaverse or something. No way a physical apartment in New York City, at least, would be $350 a month.
Wow.
So I don't know. I mean,
no, but
it's pretty cheap. I love it.
Do you like the concept of a fully furnished gamer apartment?
No. I mean, it's insane. Like, why would you, like...
Because it's turnkey. You walk in, you got everything there.
I mean, if I were like 19 years old and like living by myself and just wanted a gaming setup, then I guess that would be great. But
There's your target
I don't know how it
audience.
would work with like my kid and my dog and my wife and stuff.
I think they'd be all very excited about a gamer apartment. Jimmy?
The idea is cool. I just don't see it working at that price point. It is reminiscent of Ready Player One, where he gets that room, with the hard line right into the internet. All he basically has is a bed and his Oasis device. So I thought that's pretty kind of cool that you see this happening in the real world. But I mean, personally, I don't like using public keyboards and mice and other people's kind of stuff. So not for me. But I guess I'm a snob that way.
I'm surprised at the reaction here, guys, because I feel like we've gamerified everything else. Your home, this feels kind of smart, right? Like it's just another trend in home decor, you could call it. And instead of an apartment that has an open plan or an open layout, whatever they call it, it's a gamer apartment. I just see it as a style thing more than anything. And I think it's clever. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw this come to North America. Owen says, I just followed you too. Get juiced. And Ty says, can you sublet? Ty, that's an excellent question. I don't know, but I'm sure if you reach out to them. Owen says, I think a bunch of college kids would dig this. Like, how awesome would your college dorm room be if they were all converted to gamer apartments? Game B&B, says Ty. That's actually kind of genius. We've got 3 brilliant business ideas out of this one live stream.
I'm trademarking it now. Sorry, Ty.
Jimmy, go get the domain name for Game B&B. I actually passed on Airbed and Breakfast early seed round, so this is a little bit of a sore spot for me. All right, let's get to our last one here, guys. I have 2 more, 2 quick ones. And this one, you guys are going to like this, I think. Henry Cavill in the news. Henry Cavill spotted at Games Workshop headquarters. Handsome Henry, it says, in Warhammer World. So he was, he's supposedly a big fan of Warhammer, the games and the board game. And he was there looking at some of the things they were doing. There's rumors they may do a TV show based around Warhammer. And he has said, including in this article, but publicly, that he'd be absolutely thrilled to star in that TV series. Sorry, there's pictures here that should come up. See, he was there in person, and the nerd that he is, he was playing with all the little miniatures and things like that. Can we love Henry Cavill any more than this, Jimmy?
Yeah, I was not a fan of any of the Supermans and the Justice Leagues, and all of the stuff that he did there was just so terrible to me. And with The Witcher,
not his fault,
and not his fault, but with his gaming self coming to life, with the PC that he built and kind of put on YouTube, with Witcher, with this, I think there was one more comment from him of Mass Effect or Red Dead. I can't remember, one of those titles that he wanted to play. The lead in. He keeps getting better. I'm all for anything he wants to do, any gaming IP that he wants to get behind. You're a fool if you don't support it. So yeah, I guess that was stronger than I intended.
Jeff?
I agree. I think he's pretty genuine. This isn't the first time we've spoken about him actually. This isn't something he's just doing to show products. He actually is a gamer, cares about gaming. So I like it.
Lindsay?
Yeah, love it. Nothing else to say there.
Ty says, it's yours. My gift to you for putting out awesome content. Ty, that's
You're the
in
man.
reference to Game B&B. Well,
screenshot that just for the lawyers.
Yeah, for the lawyers. Owen says, Henry is the gamer we all wish we could be, but aren't cool enough to be. This is sadly true. And reading it makes it even more somewhat depressing. Tom says, nice guy too. It's true. Like, there's literally nothing you hear bad about the guy. And that makes it even more annoying. JC says, Ty is on fire. I mean, you guys are all on fire. We love you guys being here. All right, last one. I saved kind of a fun one. Again, another fun one for last here. And the headline here is Cooler Master unveils a sneaker-shaped PC made to commemorate the hardware manufacturer's 30th anniversary. So if you're a sneaker enthusiast, it says, and you're aesthetically tired of your PC setup, Cooler Master has the solution for you. It's called Sneaker X, and it's designed to look a little bit like a Nike Balenciaga sneaker, and it's a gaming PC inside. So it's a gaming case. Jeff, you're like thrilled about this. I can hear it.
I just don't. I don't get it. Not for
What do you
me.
mean you don't get
Jimmy
it?
would love it. I don't know.
You put this on display?
Like a sneaker on my shelf? Like, why would I? I don't know. No, I'm out. But I totally see that people would buy this. But no, not me.
I see in chat, and I have the same question from Owen. How much is this?
It's
If you gotta ask, you can't afford it.
I don't think there was a price because I don't remember. I feel like I wanted to. I looked it up at one point when I saw the article. Yeah, there's no price listed. It says you can expect to pre-order the custom unit sometime in the third quarter of 2022. So no price yet. I mean, my guess would be $500 to $1,000 easy. I think probably more like $1,000 would be my guess if I had to guess. By the way, I'm just going to read this. Owen says, Jeff, you're a boomer. Everyone else wants this.
This is spot on. This is correct.
I don't need my lightning round. I just want that to be my comment.
That's so good.
This was Lindsay's contribution. Ty says, buy and resell on StockX if it's not nuts. Oh, this I guarantee will be reselling it 3 or 4 times, like anything else sneaker related these days. But I mean, I think this is one of those areas. I'll say it. I talk about hardware all the time and how excited I get about PC gaming hardware. No one has really innovated on the case front. They're all rectangular boxes for the most part. Yes, some better cooling and airflow and things like that. But like, I think there's room for really cool innovation here. And I love seeing this. Cooler Master, great company, big fan of their products. Wish we could see more of it. All right, guys. Any other thoughts? Anything else before I wrap up here? Couple of notes for you guys and for those listening to this. Maybe you're listening to this and not live. We do this every Wednesday evening, 8:30 p.m. Eastern time. We love having all of you guys here. Make sure to tell your friends, your family, your colleagues about the live stream, about the weekly news show. It makes it so much more fun. We so appreciate everyone who participates. You have no idea. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Make sure to subscribe to Meta Business Podcast that Jeff and I do, the Juice and I do together, and the Meta Woman Podcast helmed by our very own Lindsay the Boss Poss. So go subscribe to those 2 podcasts, guys. Open your podcast app on your phone. Go subscribe to both of those. I'm so proud of the content that both of these people below me are making, and I really think you're missing out if you're not listening to both of them. Also, make sure to go follow us, Business of Esports everywhere, all socials, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, you name it. We're literally everywhere. And make sure to stay tuned for the two Business of Esports episodes this week. So much content coming your way. By the end of this year, I guarantee you guys are going to be getting 10 times this content. That's my promise to you. We love all of you. Jimmy, Lindsay, Jeff, thank you guys so much. And as always, we will see everyone next week.